Welcome back, everybody. This is 1 month later. Everyone's here. It's only been a week, but no big deal. We're going to talk about WandaVision episode 4. Before I say that, though, guys, remember, please follow, go on YouTube, like, subscribe. We each have our own little Instagrams. Find us there. Um, but usually we talk about like positives and negatives of this videos and stuff, and it's not really any negatives again with this week. Um, but we did learn a couple of things, and I'm just gonna name those off real quick and then pass it on. So we learned one that this happened after Endgame. This is three weeks, maybe 4 weeks after Endgame. Then we have Westview is not in anybody's mind. It's not in Wanda's mind. I was completely wrong. It's not in Vision's mind at all. But it's a made up. It's not a made up town. It was a kidnapped town, by Wanda. Three, the people are not agents. Again, going back to number two, the people aren't agents. They're all just kidnapped people. We saw where the helicopter came from, which was cool. The beekeeper, we saw what he was doing. One of the cool things that Matt said is that it's not AIM, unfortunately, but if you saw Jimmy Woo, you saw him writing something about why hexagonal shapes, so that was kind of cool. Then the last heartbreaking thing is we learned that Vision is dead, unfortunately, right? And but yeah, that's what we learned. One of my things there is I don't know if Wanda. I think she's like going through the stages of grief. Like she. I don't know if she really, really is in denial to the point where she doesn't know that she kidnapped the town. She does know, and she doesn't know. She can like her reality is breaking. Like so whenever Geraldine said something about Ultron, it broke. She remembers. She kicks her out, fixes everything, and then she goes back into denial and doesn't remember anything. And she thinks that she's in a town. I don't know, but other than that, that's what we learned. And I'm gonna leave it up to Carlos to tell us what he thought.
Yeah, so the very first, right off the bat, what I love is that we got uh, a callback to Endgame, and the fact that the show started off with everybody coming back from the blip, and that's how we got the introduction into who Monica really is, and official confirmation within the show of who she is. And I thought that was an absolute great setup, and it really set up the pace for the overall show as well. It just didn't let up, and I really enjoyed that. What I also enjoyed is that right from the beginning, we also got acknowledgement that Sword exists within the MCU, and it felt seamless the way that it was done. You didn't have to wait for 5 6 episodes to get that introduction to see what they're all about. It was concise, it was quick, but it was effective, and I love that. You already start getting a feel as to what this organization is all about, what they do, why they exist. So I really enjoy that. I also gotta say that so far my favorite unexpected introduction, even though it was teased, and we saw it in promos, I still love the fact that Jimmy Woo and Darcy were brought into this show. I mean, complete side, not even B characters, like C, characters, but the fact that they were brought in a way that makes sense, and the way that they incorporated why they're even there and why they're part of this team that's trying to figure out what's happening to this town. I loved it. I thought that was great, and it gives you a feel that the MCU really is this, I guess, almost living, breathing, universe, and that Marvel doesn't forget about these characters, and it just makes feel everything feel cohesive and everything feel like you know it exists basically, and that's really what I loved about Jimmy Woo and Darcy being brought in. The other thing that I really enjoyed about this episode was the focus on uh, the investigative part, right, of what's happening, and it's almost like again Jimmy Woo and Darcy and the whole sword organization. almost kind of took us, the viewers, place in trying to figure out what's happening, and you saw that with the questions that Jimmy Woo was writing on the board, and I thought that was a great callback to all of the theories and all of the questions that us as fans have been having. So that was really well done for me, and I gotta touch on the chemistry as well. I've mentioned that the chemistry between Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany has been amazing, and I gotta say that the chemistry between Darcy and Jimmy was it was just awesome, And I like that. Just the overall character interactions between everybody just feels great. The last thing that I actually want to touch on is the attention and the overall, I guess, importance that Marvel placed on making the show and the production value feel like you're actually watching an MCU movie.
Yeah.
When Wanda uses her, powers, you felt like you were watching an MCU movie. It did not feel watered down whatsoever. And some of the things that we were talking about in the earlier episodes was that when we started off with the 50s and then jumping into the 60s, that it was black and white, and then you got that 70s type of feel. In this episode, you got that MCU production value, that those camera angles, and I think that instead of that transition feeling jarring, it added to that idea that the people of Westview and what's happening there really is this break from reality, and I thought that was effectively well done, and I gotta give him props for that. You definitely see where a lot of the budget and a lot of the money went, and you first start seeing that in this episode. Um, oh, and actually, the last thing that I do want to mention was my favorite part and my favorite Easter egg was that Jimmy Woo learned how to do the card trick that he was trying to learn from Ant Man, in Ant Man and Wasp, and that to me, it's just little things like that I enjoy. From the moment that his character gets introduced, callback. So that was my take on my likes, and the only dislike that I have was that it felt short. It leaves you wanting for more. It leaves you wanting to watch that next episode, and I love that. It gives you time to digest, talk about what happened. But it's it's a positive dislike, I guess. But other than that, man, I thought everything was great. But yeah, Carlo, your thoughts?
All right, Carlos, you stole my thunder. What I agree with whatever you said. I was going to say basically what you said, but to add to that, what I liked was that it starts off with a curveball because you saw 50s, 60s, 70s, and obviously you're expecting like an 80s version,
Yeah.
but they start off with a blip. It's like, oh, whoa, that's like a curveball. I wasn't expecting that. So I really enjoyed that. And I also like that this show provides like all the answers, but you're still invested in the story. You still want to know what's going on. Like there's no more like there's the biggest surprises like where this takes place, when this takes place, and what's going on with this Westville. Those questions are answered, uh, but it leaves you wondering who's going to be the villain. What's going to happen with Wanda? Is she going to snap out of it? How is she going to snap out of it? Is she going to go like the Dark Phoenix route and go fucking berserk and crazy and like kill somebody? Uh, I have theories which I'll hold off after. What I also liked was the explanation for the helicopter because I was like, how is this in play? And then the drones was a nice like way of explaining that part. I liked how like the radio call out was explained because it just doesn't give you like the answer like oh this is how it happened. Like they showed you what was going on in that world, and also yeah I like that Jimmy's in this episode. Like he's really involved. So I'm thinking is Yellow Claw going to be involved? I'm thinking is Monica. I mean, not Monica. Maria Rambo. Is she going to come back from the dead? Oh, I'm going into theories. But that's what I'm like thinking. Like they're spending a lot of money trying to. Well, they are. They're spending a lot of money to tie it into the MCU, and I expect that's going to continue, like really tying into the MCU. And I believe that we haven't seen the budget being spent because we know how much money it, this is costing, but we haven't seen the money in action yet. So we're all excited about that. What else did I like? Oh yeah, I also like that card trick, Jimmy. I totally forgot about that card trick from the Ant Man and Wasp. It's like, oh yeah, that is true. So that's another nice little thing about that. And zombie vision, that that was so badass. Like I was like, oh man, he is dead, and we also expected that. But yeah, it was a nice like special effect trick, and it wasn't like overdone. It wasn't watered down. It was just right. Like they didn't show like worms. They didn't overdo it, and they didn't show him like, oh, I'm like half, I'm out of batteries or something stupid like that. So they did that well too. Let me see. I think Nick, yeah, you're next. I like your
Yeah.
shirt.
All right. So yeah, you guys said most of it, but like, yeah, this episode we saw budget. We really saw the budget. Like I was been waiting for like when it opens up and like, oh shit, like this. Am I watching Agent of the Shield? Like, like it felt it was a whole other atmosphere. It's not like an aspect of the show we've seen at this point. So like it felt really refreshing and new, but it also was super connective and wrapped a lot of things up and took a lot of loose ends. So obviously we get the whole where in the timeline of the MCU this takes place. Like seeing the blimp stuff was awesome. Finding out that her that is it which that Rambo's mother is the one
Maria.
that started
Maria.
Maria.
Maria. Yeah,
That
Maria.
she started Sword. So then you get like this whole like okay, Sword exists. She started it. So all that stuff from Captain Marvel like is like you see it like being built up
Mhm.
and like you know how like Nick Fury would have known who she was because of Sword and all these things like make sense and you're like okay okay and then um like we got to see she's that one girl is from Thor the Thor movies.
Darcy. Darcy Lewis.
Darcy's
Yeah.
from the Thor movies, and you have Jimmy Woo from Ant Man, and then you get to see when they set up base and everything. My favorite thing is that they're watching the first two episodes. That she like finds this radiation thing and sees that there's like a level, like a frequency over the frequency, and she like connects it and says, get me an old TV, not a flat one." Like,
That's good.
and then you see them like they've been advertising this like with posters and stuff, all these different TVs, like piecing together like the images since before the show came out, and now you see where that ties in.
Yeah.
But then you see them throughout like the episode bringing more and more TVs through the into the like the makeshift like camp, and like there's TVs and TVs and TVs, and I'm like, oh, like all those images that they were showing, all the promotional imaging is now like making sense. Like besides, like I thought we were just doing it because it's like an older themed show, but now it's like it makes sense.
Right.
Like it finally made sense. I'm like, oh, that's sick. And they're watching the shows and like analyzing the things that we've been analyzing. And like you said, like when Jimmy Woo was like, why hot hexagonal shapes? Like they're like all the things that people at the community have been pointing out and been asking about and been talking about were things that were also like they're like a special agency watching the stuff that we're watching go down the same way we were watching it and having the same questions. And I'm like, okay, haven't seen this yet. Didn't expect this at all. Um, like we expect like we kind of like were able to together come up with like a theory that kind of was right. Like there's a town that's being taken over by Wanda and it's kidnapped people and dead Vision, which honestly I said it last week, but I didn't think it'd actually show us.
A round of applause for him because that was awesome. That was good.
Good job.
I didn't actually think that they would show us dead corpse Vision puppet. Like he's like that Flash where he's basically being like controlled and she's just floating there. Dude, did not see that. And you get to see what happens after that what's happening when we didn't see it at the end of episode 3. So that was really cool to see that. And like we thought the beekeeper guy was AIM, and then you see how that guy's like suit becomes the beekeeper thing when he goes through the thing. So now you know there's like a barrier, and when you go through it, you get like changed.
Right.
Like I thought that was so cool and answered a lot of my questions. While all of a sudden I look at my phone like I'm gonna watch. It's done. The episode's over already. That's my only complaint for this whole episode is that it felt like the shortest episode because I thought like this was gonna be like a lead up. Okay, and then we're gonna get like a little bit of what's going on in there at that point. We didn't get like any real new stuff inside that dome.
Right.
And that's when I was like, oh, okay. Damn, I wish we had another episode. Because I was so like now like I want to see what's going on then. Like now, okay, all my questions outside the dome are answered. Now what's going on inside? It made me even more curious for what's going on inside the freaking dome. But yeah, like I thought, like obviously it's now modern filming, so all the like the classic film techniques they were using were so good, and now this is like modern. Like we see the budget, we see like this lines up with all the MCU stuff we've seen this like until now, and I thought it was really good. I got no real complaints besides the time length. Nuno,
All right, so yeah, man, episode 4 was really good. I love how we revisited Thanos' snap, kind of like everybody just popping up where they were snapped away, and we kind of get a feel of like overpopulation because she mentions like we don't have the capacity for this. So if a hospital doesn't have the capacity, probably Earth doesn't have the capacity at this point either. It's overpopulated everywhere, just people popping up. So I kind of like that we touched on there. And I love when she was coming back, we heard Captain Marvel talking to her like it was an episode like from the movie when she was a little girl, and you heard the old girl, you heard her, you heard a bunch of voices, but I heard Captain Marvel because she was like little lieutenant or something like that. And that was super dope. I was like, oh, that's definitely Captain Marvel. I wasn't feeling the retconned sword. They was just thrown in there, and I don't like how they changed the weapons to what was it, world. They like changed the meaning of sword completely, kind of. So I wasn't feeling that, but it's good to see it in action and in play. Like it's really dope. I really love that. I do have a theory for the entire like everything that's going on with sword. Also, I loved how we saw Maria Rambeau's memorial, and in the middle it's Photon, and Photon is our daughter's superhero name in the comic book, so we already know what's gonna happen, like, you know what I'm saying? So that's super dope, like, you know what I mean? I think me and Manny were talking about Westview and how it's connected to the Vision, or we were just referencing some points the other time we were talking because he read the comic, and it's in New Jersey, so it's kind of like the Vision comic, It's pretty cool. I love Jimmy Woo. I mean, I love them all fresh off the boat. I love him on Marvel. He's like a original character. You know what I mean? I don't feel like Disney's really bending him too much. He's very original. I love that. I love the card trick because I was like, yo, what's going on? Like he's learning tricks. Like he trying to be an Avenger himself, but it's from Ant-Man. So I'm glad that I got that reference point because I didn't get it last time. I did notice the card trick, but I didn't know it was from Ant-Man. I love Darcy. She was pretty dope. I kind of looked at her like in this episode, she represented us, the viewer. So she was like running through everything, decoding everything. So I really liked her little role. Like as corny as it was in my eyes, she had a cool role. And I love that she was like corny much, like, you know what I mean? So she was kind of like, what is that, a millennial or something? And the cosmic rays that are going on, that's the same thing that's going on with Fantastic Four, because that's referenced in Fantastic Four comics is what turns them into Fantastic Four, if I'm not mistaken, because the cosmic rays that Wanda is emitting from that dome. So that's like a nice little cosmic reference because as soon as I heard him say the cosmic rays, like I'm not gonna lie, I started looking up what like the exact meaning, and the first things that started popping up were actual Fantastic Four references, and that's how I was like, I mean, it sounded familiar, but that's literally what I got from it, and I also loved like how we got to see like the little FBI board, even though we're dealing with like superheroes and like world-defying events. You got my boy Jimmy Woo just putting up like most wanted post. It looked like some cartel. You had Wanda and Vision with a bunch of like people around them. Like who's the kingpin? You know what I mean? So I really like the like human aspect that Jimmy Woo brings to it, and the beekeeper. I got a whole nother theory for that because he's involved with swords, so I'll save that for later. The drones and like how they like did the transmissions of like, hey, we put in a brand new drone, but it was like a little helicopter toy. Very, very cool, very cool. Zombie Vision, I mean, he's literally like Nick said, like a little puppet, like And I think I told you guys, I thought it was funny how Ultron said like you all have strings, you just don't see them, and she ends up actually putting strings on people, and
That's
she's
good.
actually controlling the strings. So I just thought that was pretty crazy, but besides that, the episode was fire. It's headed in the right direction. One thing I didn't like though, guys, is I got the scene that I wanted from last week's episode. Remember, I said like her eyes are gonna turn all red and she like goes all crazy, but she went a little crazy. But I feel like she threw her like a Doctor Strange moment. Like she basically phased, not phased her. She launched her out the building, out the garage, out another bedroom, and then out the fence. I mean, I don't know unless Maria is photon already. I don't know about surviving that. Like
I
she
was
should be
thinking the
all
same.
broken.
I
Like,
was
and
thinking the
she
same
she
thing.
she went through it because how we know it's not like imaginary is because Wanda starts putting it back together. So she did destroy a house. It's not like it was an imaginary house. So she did throw her through a house, and I was just like, damn, like how did she survive that? And she was like, because the scene is like, Marie's like, it's Wanda. Wanda did it all. I'm like, she's alive, man. She's alive. Okay. But that's about it. I'm going to pass it over to Matt. That's all I had. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dino. But to be honest, pretty much you guys have said everything that I wanted to say. But I will say this though, because I was one of those first two episode haters. Like, where is this shit going to? This is ridiculous. I can't take this. But I did know, and I did say that eventually it will kick in the show. But I didn't expect it this early. So it was just good to finally get the view of what's going outside this bubble. And like, well done to Nick and Carlo for nailing it on their head with our theories last week, getting it all right. I'm loving Jimmy Woo and Darcy's chemistry. I hope we get more of these two on the show. I absolutely love it. I love that how Jimmy Woo's kind of acting like what we are, like the way he was writing all the things on the board, like because I'm pretty sure it said scrolls was there.
Yeah, it was one of the first
Yeah,
ones.
scrolls involved, and I'm pretty sure he wrote AIM. I can't remember, but he wrote all these things that it was like he was acting out as one of us. Like Marvel knew what theories and what things we would be saying. So hey, let's make this character say all this stuff. So I really like that kind of view of it. But yeah, it's just good to see what the hell's really going on, man. Because I don't know if next week they're going to go back to back to the way it was, but at least now it might be more enjoyable and understandable because you know what's really going on now. But yeah, man, I haven't got much to say to you guys. Just took it all, said everything I wanted to say. So
Yeah.
keep my review short. But yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. And like the same as you guys, my only downfall is these episodes go too short. Like 28 minutes is too short, and then waiting a week is too long. Like maybe release it every 3 days, but like you were saying, Carlos, it gives us time to process it all and figure out what's going on. But I just also liked all the shout outs that they done from Captain Marvel. I liked how we got a more serious view of the blip, where it was Homecoming yeah, we got the blip introduced to the blip in Spider-Man, wasn't it? It
Far
was
From
more
Home.
of a comedy act, kind of the people running into each other. It was nice to get a more serious view of what the blip really did, like how her mum dies of cancer and she wasn't even there. So it was good to get that kind of side of Blip, and it's just good to get MCU, proper stuff.